In the early part of the 20th century, the circus was a huge attraction in Appalachia. The folks looking forward to the day the circus train would show up in their town with the sideshow, the acrobats, the lion tamers, and the other circus animals. One dark day, though, the people of one Appalachian community wished the circus had just stayed away. Today we tell you about the hanging of Mary the elephant, another one of the stories of Appalachia. Just a heads up, though, this story involves what many would consider to be severe animal cruelty. Although we've left out many of the worst details, it might still upset a few of you. If so, we'd urge you to just skip this video and go on to something else. One of the better-known circuses that traveled through Appalachia was the Sparks world-famous shows, started by John Sparks and run by his adopted son, Charlie Sparks. The Sparks story, by the way, is an interesting one all in itself. You see, Charlie Sparks had been born in England and had moved to America with his parents, English music hall performers, as a young child. After his father's death, Charlie went into show business himself as a drummer and world champion clogger of all things with a minstrel show. During a stop in Utah, he and his mother met a vaudeville performer named John H. Wiseman. After Mrs. Sparks' death, Wiseman took the still underage Charlie in and adopted him, changing his own name, interestingly enough, from Wiseman to Sparks. The two then went into the circus business and did quite well. One of the things that John H. Sparks did for his circus was buy exotic animals. One of the animals he bought was a very large elephant named Mary. Now, Sparks claimed that Mary was larger than P.T. Barnum's Jumbo, although that was just bragging. Mary was a born performer who'd stand on her head and play musical instruments. She even pitched softballs. She was also much loved by the Sparks family and the other human performers of the Sparks world-famous shows, and was treated much as you treat the family pet. Late in the summer of 1916, the Sparks Circus was on a tour of Appalachia. On September 11th, the Sparks train stopped in the little coal town of St. Paul, Virginia for a show. While there, a drifter and worker at the Riverside Hotel named Walter Eldridge, also known as Red, approached the head elephant trainer and asked for a job helping with the elephants. He was instructed on the Sparks policy of treating the animals humanely and gently, then put to work preparing the animals for the show the next day in the soon-to-be brand-new planned industrial city of Kingsport, Tennessee. To promote itself, Kingsport was hosting its first county fair, and the Sparks Circus was going to be the main event. On September 12th, the Sparks world-famous shows pulled into the Kingsport train station, and the circus left the train for a parade through town. They marched from the station up Broad Street 2 blocks, then turned right onto Center Street. Crowds gathered along the muddy streets to watch the performers and animals pass by. Then tragedy struck. Mary, ridden by Red Eldridge, spotted a treat, namely a large piece of watermelon lying in the street ahead. She came to a stop to get that watermelon, which apparently irritated Red. He forgot all he'd been told about humanely and gently treating the Sparks animals and took an elephant hook he had with him with a large metal prong at the end. He jabbed Mary in the back of her jaw to get her to drop the watermelon rind, which turned out to be the wrong thing to do. You see, Mary, unknown to Red and everyone else taking care of the animals, had an abscessed tooth, and Red Eldridge got her square in that tooth area. According to witnesses, Mary grabbed Eldridge around the waist with her trunk, lifted him over her head, and flung him into a nearby drink stand. She then walked over to him and lifted her front foot. The last thing Walter Eldridge saw in this world was Mary's foot heading toward his face. At seeing this, the crowd panicked and ran off in every direction. A blacksmith happened to have his pistol with him, and he used it, firing several rounds at Mary. Unfortunately, the bullets had no effect. What with her thick hide, she didn't even notice. Charlie Sparks came over and gently talked to Mary, calming her down and getting her under control. Unfortunately, he had no such success with the crowd, who soon started chanting, "Kill the elephant," over and over. Pretty soon, word began to spread, and officials at the next stop for the circus, Johnson City, forbade Sparks to come to the city with Mary. And Charlie knew he had to do something. That something was to attempt to make lemonade out of lemons. He arranged a show trial, something that would get at least a little good publicity for the circus. The sheriff rounded up a magistrate who agreed to sit as judge in a murder trial for Mary the elephant. She didn't have a chance and was found guilty and sentenced to death. Now the question became, how do you execute an elephant? Well, there was talk of electrocution, as Thomas Edison had done to an elephant not too long before in a demonstration of the dangers of alternating current electricity, but there wasn't enough voltage in the new town to do that. There was talk of using trains to do the jobs in ways we won't go into detail here because they were, frankly, gruesome, but that was turned down by Charlie Sparks. Finally, they hit on the idea of hanging, if they could find some way to do it. And they did, using a railroad derrick, a device used to pick up railroad cars and move them around, making it sturdy enough to handle an elephant. Charlie contacted the railroad, Clinchville Railroad, to see about getting a derrick with no luck. You see, there had been 2 hurricanes that had passed through the area just weeks before, leaving all the derricks but one out doing repairs on washed-out lines. And that one was not to be moved, but had been ordered to remain at the main rail yard in Erwin, Tennessee. So Sparks made an arrangement to use that derrick right there in the yard 1 day hence after a show in Erwin on September 13th. That show, minus Mary, who was left chained up and confused in the staging area, went on without a hitch. After the show, the rail derrick was set up before a huge crowd who came to see the hanging of Mary the elephant. They tied chains around her neck and lifted her up, then dropped her when the chain broke, breaking her hip in the process and terrifying the crowd, many of whom fled because they were afraid she'd wreak vengeance on them all. A bigger chain was gotten, and on the second try they succeeded in lifting Mary up by the neck, killing her. Mary was placed in a grave dug at the rail yard, but no one knows for sure where that is. And folks, that's the story of the hanging of Mary the elephant, another bit of the history of Appalachia. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to subscribe to the Stories channel. Ding the bell to get notifications whenever we put out a new video. And if you don't mind, give us a thumbs up too. Y'all take care. So long, everybody.